What's the biggest lie that men are believing right now when it comes to being a father in today's culture?
Such a good question. I mean, I think there's a couple of them, but one always bubbles to the top of the surface for me because I think it's a lie around perception. So I'll give you an example. Um, Perception of, well, first let me say what the perception is. The perception of fatherhood is I'm a man, I'm now married, so I'm a husband, and I'm a father, which means that because I'm a man, I innately and naturally know how to do this and do it very, very well. Or at least or here's the second one, or at least I should. And that's about as crazy as thinking, I've never done jujitsu, but I'm going to go compete in a tournament and I'm going to go kick ass. Right. So like, anything we do in life, no matter what it is, if we're successful at it and we do it well, chances are we have been trained in it, we've learned it, or we've implemented it, but we have some ways, somehow we've learned it. So like, think about it. Like, you need an associate's degree to go get basically a 2 year, like, so for instance, like an LPN, like a licensed nurse or a licensed nurse, right? Um, for a nurse to go get that, you need to have a 2 year associate's degree for an LPN, right? And that's like the bare minimum requirement for a nurse, right? Bachelor's degree in nursing is a bit different. That's 2 more years. That's a 4 year education. And there's way more in depth. There's a lot more stuff that they learn. Then there's like a master's, and then there's a nurse practitioner, right? There's also a physician assistant. There's all kinds of things that we go get trained on. But just because we are a man or a woman doesn't matter, and we want to be a nurse and we love the medical field, that doesn't mean that we're going to be great at it. In fact, it would be disastrous if we just try to enter into that field without any education. Same thing with being a police officer, 990 hours of training before that police cadet can actually be a police officer. I think the fire academy is the same thing. I think it's over 900 hours of training before you're a firefighter, first responder. But yet, you know, and here's the other thing too, the funny thing, you need a license to drive a car. So you at least have to have a know-how. You have to have basically an officer or a certified person who can pass or fail you to say, yes, this person can have the privilege, not the right, to drive a moving vehicle. I've tested them practically and in a written form. They're good to go. But when we get married and we start having kids and things start, basically crap starts hitting the fan, and our life is a bit messy and we don't know what to do, we're not exactly sure what the right next move is, we come down on ourselves horrifically thinking that we should have all the answers because we're a man and we're the dad and we're the husband. And the perception is wrong. Unless you've understood, or you're in some sort of learning environment or a learning community, or you're reading books or you're listening to podcasts, like, good luck, because it's not going to work out. And the final thing to really hit this home is, there's a lot of guys out there who take jujitsu now. So it's not really uncommon for a guy to come across, my virtual desk and want to enter into one of our communities or programs or one of the groups that I run. And he's confused as to, like, I just don't understand why I cannot get my arms wrapped around my marriage. Like, I can't connect with my wife the way I want to. I can't seem to create the intimacy that I want with her. I'm not having sex as often as I want to. And it's the same thing with my kids. I'm not as patient as I want to be with my kids. I don't know how to connect with my teenage daughter. I don't know how to connect with my 5-year-old son. And then the funny thing is with how popular jujitsu is, I'll ask the guy, do you do any martial arts? And of course, like, a lot of them are like, yeah, I do jujitsu. I'm like, okay, great. Well, do you do tournaments? And they'll be like, someone will be like, well, yeah. I'll be like, well, how long did you train before you did a tournament? And I've heard everything from 6 months to 2 years for that. And I said, okay, would you ever enter into a tournament without ever taking one class? And they look at me like I have two heads, and they're like, oh my God, of course not. I was like, well, why not? And they're like, because I'd get mowed over. Like, I'd be killed. I'd be crushed. I'd tap out in probably 10 seconds. And I was like, do you see the alignment here with, you haven't learned much about marriage. You haven't learned much about fatherhood. You basically signed up for a tournament in jujitsu without any training. This is the same thing. So why would you expect anything different? And you see that clarity hit that man. You also see that breath of relief of, like, oh crap, no wonder. Right. And I was like, so what would it be like? What would it feel like for you to learn? Right. And then when they get in that learning environment, it changes the whole thing. But the biggest lie, I think, is the perception of, well, you're a man, you're married, you're a husband now, but you just became a dad. So innately, you've got to be good at it. No mistakes. And when you do make mistakes, you come down on yourself. You should know better. when in actuality, you probably haven't taken the time to learn.
Yeah, you're speaking to skill acquisition, right? And you used a great analogy there with jujitsu. I remember around 2013, my bodybuilding career. I'd been competing amateurly but competitively for about 5 years, and I trained at that point for about a decade, and I was really good at getting lean. But it was like every show I looked kind of the same. There wasn't a lot of growth that was happening, and then I got around some high level bodybuilders, Ben Bukowski being one of them, kind of, made intelligent training um, a thing. Like he was one of the first kind of science based muscle trainers. And all of his camps, all of the programs that he developed had about a 6 week period of skill acquisition. Is like, I'd been training at that point for over a decade. I thought I knew how to exercise, but learning biomechanics, learning how to feel muscle tension through internal focus as opposed to externally, like changed the game for me. And it was like through like working and mastering exercise movements, the skill acquisition of training and the skill acquisition of hypertrophy based training, I was able to put 30 pounds on in like a 12-month period, which I hadn't done since really the first year. And I think it's such a crucial topic here, both with marriage, but also with fathers. It's like, if you don't have things that you're learning, skills that you're developing, assets that you're acquiring, I don't want to say failure is going to be inevitable, but success is going to be a lot more difficult. You could almost slide oops into it, right? But who are we learning from? What skills are we acquiring? So when it comes to mastering or developing or this pursuit of legendary fatherhood, what are some of the key skills that men need to be look at acquiring?
I think the number one thing is clear communication, clear connected communication. So I love quotes, and I quote a lot of things in this book. And one of them is, without connection, you have no influence. So without connection to your kids, whatever you say or do is not going to have any credibility. It's not going to have any weight, no matter what. They're going to, whenever you're talking, it's going to be blah, 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 blah. Right. And a lot of us were raised, and I think that more in that authoritative, household where it's like, do as I say. I'm the parent. I'm the dictator. I'm the authoritarian. And what I think, for a lot of us, not all of us, but some of us grew up in, who were guys like, our age, they grew up in households where there wasn't really a whole lot of connection factor. It was more like X's and O's, do what I say, do your thing, go to school, do your homework, not that there's an absence of love, but connection wasn't probably nearly as big of a deal as it is now. Like, I really got to applaud guys. Like, I really got to applaud the desire of men out there, like the guys that I get to work with on a daily basis. These guys have high desire to connect with their kids and their wives. Like, that's what they really, really want. The gap that I see is, I don't know exactly what that looks like, because that was not the way I was raised. And not only do I not know what it really looks like, but I don't know how to do it. So, and a lot of it boils down to communication, and clear communication, and confident communication. So, like, for instance, if you're not clear with your communication, which a lot of us are not, we think we are, but we're not. And I'll give you an example here in a second. How in the world are we able to convey, anything of substance to our wives and our kids? And then the other piece to this is, clear communication is one thing, but the thing that needs to happen before clear communication is connection. So, in other words, like, you know, here's an analogy that I always like to use. I strive every day to be my kid's 3 a.m. call. So, like, when 3 a.m. hits, when the kids, and I don't care how old they are, I've got a 9-year-old and I've got a 19-year-old, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that I am my kid's 3 a.m. call, because it's happened a few times with my older ones. But I want that kid to feel so connected to me. I want them to be like, he is the go-to when things go wrong. When I'm on the other side of this oscillating fan and someone's on the other side of it dumping a bucket of feces on it, and I'm on the receiving end of that, I know on speed dial I can call my dad, because rep after rep, day after day, that guy's been the guy, right? And they'll pick up the phone, they'll call. But they're not going to do that without connection, and we got to really understand what that looks like. So let me break down the clear communication thing first, and then we'll get to connection, because connection is a little bit deeper. I took my oldest son, Ethan, to the Squire event, which is the rite of passage, which I actually write about that, in this book a little bit. The Squire is a rite of passage. It's a 15-hour sort of crucible event that's put on by Bedros Koulian. It's ran by like Navy SEALs and special force guys and all this stuff. And it's a test. It's a real big test. The last evolution of that 15-hour crucible is me guiding my son blindfolded. I'm not blindfolded. He is. He's blindfolded through an obstacle course where there's people swinging things and there's stuff that they got to walk through and walk under and walk around. And there's bear traps and there's barbed wire and there's all kinds of crazy stuff that they could step in and get into or whatever. You get really, really tested of how clear your communication is when he's blindfolded. I can't touch him. And literally I'm a foot away from him. I'm telling him what to do. So like, for instance, he was about ready to step into a bear trap, or he was approaching a bear trap that was in the pathway on purpose. It was there for me to help him navigate around. And I said, hey, you've got a bear trap in front of you. And he's blindfolded and I can see it. And I think I'm being clear. And he's like, how far away is it? Am I right up on it? Am I 10 feet away? Am I 5 feet away? Like 30 feet away? What am I? I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, you're actually about 10 feet away from it. And he's like, so 10 steps or 10 feet? And I'm like, wow. Okay. I was like, no, I was like, let me see you walk and I'll count them and I'll stop you 2 paces before you get close to it. Is that cool? So I had to count it and he was 5 paces away. So, I mean, that's very different than you're right in front of a bear trap or you're 10 feet away, right? I could very clearly put him in a situation if I'm not clear with that communication. So then the rest of the communication looked like this. I was like, okay, stop. You're 2 paces away from it. It's directly in front of you. If you're a clock and you're pointed at 12 o'clock, the bear trap is right at 12 o'clock. So here's what I want you. So then I kind of messed up again. I was like, I need you to go to your left a little bit. And he's like, what does that mean? Do I turn all the way to the left? Do I go at an angle? Like, what do I do? I'm like, okay, you're at 12 o'clock right now. I want you to turn your entire body to not to the 9 o'clock position to your left and be facing that way. Okay, good. Now what I want you to do is count and walk 6 paces straight in that 9 o'clock position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stop. Turn back to the 12 o'clock position. Now there's no bear trap in front of you. You're a good 4 feet away from it to your right. You are totally in the clear. Listen to the sound of my voice. Keep walking until I tell you to stop. Step, step. And literally, you have to break it down that clearly. And a lot of times what we think in real life is like, well, I'm being clear. We're actually not. You got to be really, really detailed when it comes to your communication. And when unless you're in an environment where you're tested like that, you really have no idea how unclear our communication actually could be. Right. So there's that.